order the Board of Directors regularly scheduled meetings of the New Jersey Transit Corporation, New Jersey Transit Rail Operations, Inc., New Jersey Transit Bus Operations, Inc., New Jersey Transit Mercer, Inc., and New Jersey Transit Morris, Inc.
At this time, James Brown will deliver the public safety announcement.
At New Jersey Transit, your safety is our highest priority. Please listen to these safety instructions in the case of an emergency. In an emergency, announcements will be made over the loudspeaker or by a uniformed police officer. The primary exit for this location is a stairwell located in the lobby adjacent to the elevators. There is a second staircase through that door. New Jersey Transit Police will call for assistance, administer CPR, and use the defibrillator located near the elevators, if necessary. Fire extinguishers are located in the front and back of this room. Please be guided by the directions of the New Jersey Transit Police and staff. Thank you, and have a safe day.
Thank you.
Thanks, James. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Chair Gutierrez, Cacchetti, and board members. For the record, Board Member Greaves is absent at today's meeting. I will now take roll call. Chair Gutierrez, Cacchetti. Here. Board Member Caulfield.
Here.
Board Member Ajmani.
Here.
Board Member Castillo.
Here.
Thank you. Next is the Open Public Meetings Notice. Adequate notice of today's regularly scheduled meetings of the Board of Directors of the New Jersey Transit Corporation, New Jersey Transit Rail Operations, New Jersey Transit Bus Operations, New Jersey Transit Mercer, and New Jersey Transit Morris has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and the New Jersey Transit Reform Legislation, Public Law 2018, Chapter 162. The meetings will occur concurrently. Notices were filed on January 10, 2019 with the Secretary of State. These notices were sent to newspapers of general distribution, posted in the main entrance of New Jersey Transit headquarters, published on the corporation's website, and sent to each individual, agency, and organization that requested such notice. The meetings are viewable on the corporation's website in real time and will be video recorded, archived, and made available to the public. Minutes will also be archived and published on the website.
Thank you, Joyce. May I have a motion to enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters, contract and collective bargaining negotiations, the status of pending and anticipated litigation, and matters falling within the attorney-client privilege, including but not limited to the proposed labor agreements, New Jersey Transit Bus Operations, Inc., and Amalgamated Transit Union, New Jersey State Council and Local Division Numbers 540, 819, 820, 821, 822, 823, 824, 825, 880, and related labor agreements. May I have a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. We shall return shortly. I hereby reconvene the open session board meetings. Board Secretary, please take roll call.
Roll call. Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti.
Here.
Board Member Caulfield.
Here.
Board Member Ajmani.
Here.
Board Member Castillo.
Here.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to and a second to approve the minutes of the December 12, 2018 board meetings?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Joyce, are there any comments from the public?
Yes, we have 5 speakers, and we also have a group of 4 speakers on behalf of Russell Grady. Speakers, in order to give everyone an opportunity to be heard, comments will be limited to 5 minutes. And for the group of speakers, our protocol is if there are several people speaking on the same topic, the first 2 speakers will have 5 minutes to provide comments, and all other speakers will have 2 minutes to provide comments. The first speaker is Orrin Getz.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Orrin Getz. First thing is I'd like to comment this room looks much better. It's giving us a new impression for the new year, and I hope things will be much better here in the new year. I've also heard very good things about Raymond Kelly from our staff at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee of the MTA. So I'm looking forward to hopefully get things much improved on the railroad and we get much better service. Today when I got on the train at Nanuet, the conductor who knows me requested I try to do something about the recent problems on the Pascack Valley line. When the Metro North Express train is canceled in the morning, it has a cascading effect on the railroad. And some of the trains after that are also run short cars so that when the train gets farther down the line, the crews cannot get through and pick up the tickets. There's a lot of standees, and sometimes the train has to end up missing some of the stops, which leaves the passengers at the stations like Woodridge just stranded on the platform. So we really have to see if we can get the equipment running better and make sure that there's no cancellation of trains. Also, we have not received any status on when we're going to get our second Pascack Valley Express train restored. We were notified when the train was cut in June that we would restore it in January, but we've yet to hear any status on it. Since this is a part of the original schedule, we should be able to have the trains restored as soon as the equipment is available. So we really do need a status on that. And we'd also like to comment that I get a lot of complaints from what happens in the evening. Sometimes the Pascack Valley Line Express train is canceled, and sometimes the commuters coming out of Penn Station can't make the connections at Secaucus. And this causes a very bad cascading effect and extreme crowding on the trains. So we'd like to see what New Jersey Transit can do to improve those connections and make sure that the people get on the trains, and we do run all the trains on the Pascack Valley Line as required. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sally Geller.
Good morning. I'm Sally Gellert. I'm the Lackawanna Coalition Communications Director. In this new year, we want to welcome Head of Rail Operations Ray Kenny and wish him well. We'd be glad to meet with him once he's settled in. Of course, if we're to travel to such a meeting, we would really like to have rail schedules on which we can rely. Not like train number 267 during December. Reportedly, that train, which is the 5:25 p.m. outbound Montclair Boonton train, did not run at all between Thanksgiving Monday and December 28th. Fiction does not help us. Please provide a formal schedule that you can keep. Building on that subject, we're expecting either full restoration in January, which means within approximately 2 weeks, or should that fail, to be given a date certain when our trains will be back to normal. We suspect that engineer shortages have been a bigger problem than PTC installation, despite the latter being a convenient cover. We note that although the government shutdown might delay an FRA inspection, such an inspection is needed only on the Atlantic City and Dinky lines. Because reduced service has continued on all other lines, service on the Raritan Valley and elsewhere can and should be happening as soon as staff is available. If for any reason this is not by February 1st, we're expecting an extended and increased discount, perhaps 25% system-wide, not just the canceled line, until all trains are restored. Any attempt by NJ Transit to make any of these cuts more permanent is unacceptable, as we will make clear at the public hearings that would be required under the legislation just signed. Given that a new rail start in Fort Worth, Texas was delayed by only 4 days despite the shutdown, we do not see FRA delay as an obstacle to getting our trains back. We have been following with interest the discussions about a less expensive proposal for tunnel restoration along the L train subway line. As the Hudson River tunnels are less damaged than the East River tunnels, we encourage you to look into the viability of a similar low-cost proposal that could lead to useful tunnels now, requiring only weekend closings as has been done before. To have 2 operating tunnels repaired in just a few years, rather than 12, would allow a much more affordable gateway. We see the current massive proposal as mainly benefiting real estate developers, consultants, and the infrastructure industrial complex, not riders, particularly in the short term. We went down such an unaffordable line 10 years ago with ARC. Let's learn from the past and find an inexpensive, practical way of quickly expanding Trans-Hudson capacity. We note that the new legislation attempting to reform New Jersey Transit has been signed. Regarding the board expansion, we are glad to see representatives of bus and rail unions on the board and hope that they will soon be given an actual vote, making their participation more meaningful. We are concerned about the commuter and agency representatives, none from grassroots rider advocacy organizations. And we again see that not a single board member is required to be dependent on transit for mobility, so this important perspective will not be included. Other features of the legislation, 2-year budgeting, public hearings before service cuts and fare increases, evening meetings, give us some hope, but talk is cheap and time will tell. We are pessimistic about the effectiveness of a consumer advocate. Presumably that's included to give us hope, but not only was the last chief compliance officer fired after only months on the job, but the Murphy administration has followed in the footsteps of the Christie administration by continuing the fight against him. Of course, times and attitudes can change. In the case of New Jersey Transit, we certainly hope that they do, and we'll be watching for positive signs. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Murray Bowden.
Good morning. My notes are here on my phone. There's no particular order to these notes, just things that I remember. Yesterday was an MTA board meeting, which was incredible. It changed the way everybody thinks about everything. It was about the tunnel, the L train tunnel. 5 years worth of planning and work went down the tubes, and they said, well, what's the latest technology? Let's use it. We don't have to take out the bench. We can leave it there, and we'll put racks on the wall, and we'll attach it differently than the previous one. Essentially, they were saying, what's happened the last 50 years, 20 years, we can't do it that way anymore. Yesterday, they also dropped the old section of the Tappan Zee Bridge into the river. Little demolition, boom, 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 safest way, in the water, 10 seconds, gone. Drop the Kosciuszko Bridge into the river, done. These are some notes. Artificial intelligence wasn't around 5 years ago. It's here today. Self-driving cars weren't around 5 years ago. They're here today. Lyft, Uber weren't around a few years ago. They've changed the taxi industry all over the world. In a few years, we'll have all electric cars. Well, when I graduated RPI in 1955, I used the slide rule, log, duplex, decitrig. Today, I'm reading notes off my phone. We're all using phones, communicating differently. Well, China just landed a probe on the far side of the moon. We haven't been able to do that. Nobody else has. The gist of what I'm saying is you've got pitchers of water there, no water bottles. That's the direction we're going in. We're thinking differently. My generation is finished. I'm finished. I want out of here as soon as possible. I hope this is the last time I ever come here. You're making steps in the right direction. They have to accelerate. You have to look at the things we've been doing and say, well, that was appropriate 10 years ago. But the technology has changed. That's the latest computer. A lot of people are resisting. We said we're going to do things and they haven't been done. Well, they will be done. If you haven't seen that meeting from the MTA yesterday, it's online, it's on YouTube. It's worth seeing. I want to thank everybody that I've met here. They've been incredibly good mentors and teachers to me. I could not have done this without much of what I learned here at New Jersey Transit over the years. We've had great people here. But my time's up. I'm over. My generation is up. My generation can't give up. They have to. My grandson's generation and your grandchildren, they're taking over. So I thank you all for the opportunity to have come here and made some very good friends, and in fact learned how to play golf because of this. That's not funny. I'm taking my golf clubs to Florida when we're driving down. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. The next speaker is Tim Sevener.
Hi, Tim Sevener from the Transit Village of Mount Tabor. And I'd just like to congratulate you on a few things. One, getting PTC installed, at least this phase of it done, which in a year, when nothing got done for 8 years under the previous governor and administration. And I see that you listened to us the last time about not being able to see the audience, and you changed the podium, which is nice. It seems like you're listening to people, so that's good. I'm here as a member of the Sierra Club Transportation Committee and the New Jersey Association of Rail Passengers about the Dinky. Both groups and many others in the Save the Dinky campaign are very concerned about the past truncation of the Dinky and now the shutdown of rail service on the Dinky, allegedly for PTC installation, even though there is no requirement for PTC. Princeton traffic is already a nightmare, which could have been alleviated by following NJR's recommendations years ago to extend the Dinky and increase service to light rail frequencies. Instead, Princeton got NJ Transit under Governor Christie to demolish the historic Dinky station in the dead of night so Princeton could build a parking garage. What Green Committee in Princeton ever approved that? We have to wonder. Now Dinky service is suspended when it's needed more than ever with major traffic problems as the DOT diverts Alexander Road traffic to already overcrowded roads as they rebuild the Alexander Road Bridge. And so these bridge rebuildings often take way more than scheduled, as I know from the Summit Bridge that took 3 times longer than expected. My shuttle driver at Celgene was always, when are they going to fix that bridge? When are they going to finish it? So this could be the same situation. And apparently, I don't know firsthand, but a member of the Sierra Club said the mayor of Princeton is also pushing to restore the Dinky because he's really worried about the traffic problem while this bridge is being constructed. This is the sort of policy which a new governor and board are supposed to change. While we all know that gateway funding is critical, yet this is another case where we have existing rail green transit already built, not being utilized. The biggest bang for our buck we can achieve quickly is to run trains on the rail lines we already have, as Orrin asked for the Pascack Valley line, on the Morris line. Saturday, we went to see Aaron Neville at SOPAC. Great concert. SOPAC is a great transit-oriented community. They're doing all the right things. They have a shuttle instead of parking garage for people to take the train from South Orange. We could not take the train reasonably to get there because we would have had to leave at 6:12 p.m. for an 8 o'clock concert, and then we would have left like 11:40 and get back at midnight for a 2-hour concert. What's the problem? The problem is since 2006 and 2008, Hoboken service has been devastated on the Morris Line. Restore. This should be an easy thing to do. Kevin, I'm asking you, you take this train. We have the trains during the week. Can we run the trains, restore the direct Hoboken service on the Morris Line on the weekends? That gives you a train every half an hour, plus the beauty of Hoboken, as I tried to explain to some people saying, the conductor says, go to Midtown. Listen, if you're just going to New York, go to Hoboken and take the ferry. It's beautiful. Hoboken is way more reasonable. You don't have to stampede. So this should be, I think this is an easy step to do. Restore weekend service to Hoboken direct on the Morris Line. You should have enough equipment. Hopefully when the engineers come, you can do that as soon as possible. In general, the IPC has warned we have 10 years, we may have 10 years to prevent catastrophic climate change. And auto addiction is the biggest source of greenhouse emissions in New Jersey, and the major reason the U.S. increased CO2 emissions last year. New Jersey train, that's it. Restore our trains, that's it. And hopefully weekend to Hoboken. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Joe Clift.
Good morning, and thank you for the arrangement. My tush is not so much exposed this way. I appreciate that. Let me talk today about what's been happening over the last 2 weeks in Manhattan. What I have today, the handout, most of you I think have it. I'm not selling the Daily News, but this is one of the great covers. What it says is, yeah, and you know what that really means, but they have avoided a 15-month shutdown of the L train. 250,000 trips a day would have been diverted to a very difficult situation. And they did it because Columbia and Cornell engineering deans and their people came up with a current plan. They are not proposing to do what WSP and New Jersey Transit's been involved in this and Amtrak involved in this, which is to restore something that was built in 1900, 1910. They are doing current technology. And it so happens, and some people mentioned this before, the same work can be done on the Hudson Tunnels. The first reason is because only 10% of those tunnels had water inundation from Sandy. The L train tunnel is 43%, so far less damage. And secondly, you can move the tunnel repairs to now. The current plan calls for these repairs, which they say are needed, or Armageddon's going to occur under the Hudson River. They're not going to do the repairs until starting in late 2026. You wonder how critical this is if they have a plan that pushes those off for 8 years. That's a huge improvement. And it actually eliminates the need for the entire $14 billion Hudson Tunnel project. That project to build new tunnels is premised on one thing only. That is to build new tunnels so that the old tunnels can be shut down to be repaired. They actually say in their application to the feds from last September, this $14 billion of taxpayers' money will not increase peak capacity at all, which is totally ridiculous in my book. It's just absolutely crazy to spend $14 billion and actually say you're not going to increase capacity. So now there's a plan, if you follow the Columbia Cornell L train no shutdown plan, you can repair these tunnels from Sandy damage on weekends. You're already running one tunnel service, one tube service, so it won't even affect the public at all. And in so doing, the entire $14 billion plan isn't needed. Now, you do need more capacity, but what you need is you need additional capacity from New York Penn Station to where Midtown Direct comes in. You don't need everything else they want to build. You don't need Penn South. You don't need all this extra paraphernalia. That's desired. It's not affordable. And this work that they plan to, hopefully they will plan to do now, they have to be convinced. WSP, Parsons Brinkerhoff, did the planning for the L train tunnels. They're also doing the planning for the Hudson Tunnel, so hopefully they will follow their own lead and do this work the fast, cheap way. But you're talking maybe $250 million instead of $14 billion. And you need to go back and come up with a plan that adds at least a third track between Penn Station fixed up and Midtown Direct. New Jersey Transit did the EIS for the Hudson Tunnel project. You are part of the wrong direction that needs to be changed. The magic of Columbia and Cornell is not only to use current technology, but to do two other things. It's to do work simultaneously. They propose to do the new cabling in parallel with working on the bench walls. They take the cabling out of the bench walls, and now the bench walls are simply something to walk on. So they can do that work simultaneously. And they also plan to spend money on better technology, quicker technology, and they won't have to repair all the bench walls that were never damaged. So you basically have what Columbia Dean calls non-value added project scope. That's a big little set of words, but the fact is most of the work to repair the tunnels that's planned now that takes forever isn't needed. So I implore you, go after Amtrak. They own the tunnels, but guess what? You have most of the use of them, and you have to go after them to make this change. It's affordable, it's faster, it will work for everyone. I just want to welcome Ray Kinney. Our paths crossed at the Long Island Railroad eons ago, but I wish him the very best. He is a major boost to your effort here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a group of 4 speakers on behalf of Russell Grady. The group has elected to have the first 2 speakers provide comments for 2 minutes, and the following 2 speakers provide comments for 5 minutes. The first speaker is Jamie Bland.
Good morning. My name is Jamie Bland, and on behalf of the National Action Network, chapter leader under Reverend Al Sharpton, we are here basically as a reminder. We know that you are the new administration, with an exception maybe of 1 or 2. But what we want to remind you is while you are thinking about and negotiating and basically going over documents, I just want you to remember that Mr. Russell Grady, our A-list business executive gentleman that is sitting here that we are supporting, he had to actually pay 2 consecutive years. This is the thing that really had me startled, because I couldn't even sleep thinking about how somebody was humiliated and family had to really go through how do we scuffle and scramble along so that he doesn't lose his pride and his dignity as a man and the A-list gentleman that he is. He had to pay 2 consecutive years without even operating out of the building. Now, I think that's called bullying. And I know bullying is 4 different levels of bullying. And that's about 2 to 3 levels there. Social, verbal, and physical. So the damage alone, with that being said, we need justice for Mr. G, and we want you to make him whole again. Thank you. No justice? No justice?
Thank you. The next speaker is Donna Ivy.
Good morning. Happy New Year. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we are here for Mr. G. As you all know that, and I'm not going to repeat what Jamie has already shared, because I also know that you've heard it all and you know it. For those of you that are new, I'm sure you've read the minutes and know what is going on here. We do want Mr. G to have some kind of resolution for this matter as soon as possible, for him to be made whole, because this is his livelihood, and he's been nothing but positive in terms of the city of Patterson, as well as doing business even with NJ Transit when he did have his business. So we just want the respect, we just want the admiration, and we would just want him to be made whole. And there really isn't much more to say about that. He is a good man. He's a good citizen, not only in the city, but the state, and of course the country. He provides job opportunities, and because of who he is, we would like him to be made whole. We do appreciate this time. I certainly do, as a professional, because I know what, the board work is all about. But we are definitely looking for you all to respect him to the fullest. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Errol Kerr.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New Year to everybody. I spoke to Mr. G before we got here, and he filled me in on the development that is happening. And I would like to commend the board for continuing the dialogue. We are here today just to remind the board that we will be here until the job is complete. Like the children of Israel, we will be marching around the wall of Jericho until it falls. So we are here this morning to present again or bring the case again to the attention not only of the board but to the public. I want to let you know that in 2004, just about when this process started, the value of $1, if you the value of $1 in 2004, the equivalent of it today, would be about $1.34. In 2004, the board offered Mr. Grady, and it wasn't the board really, I believe it was an arbitration, $1.3 million. What that means, if you move that, if you look at $1.3 million, then when it was offered to what is the value of it today, that would be about $1.7 million. So what is important here is not that the board is not making an offer, but what is the value to Mr. G of the offer that the board is making. The point I'm trying to make is that the offer must be reasonable. Many of my colleagues have talked about, making Mr. G whole. I'm here to take a different tact. I don't believe it's possible to make Mr. G whole. We have broken him up in so many pieces emotionally and financially. It is almost impossible to make him whole. So we are not asking you to make him whole. What we are asking this board to do is to be reasonable. Be reasonable. Let your humanity comes out in this agreement. $1.3 million, 2004. You cannot give $200,000 as a settlement. $300,000 settlement in 2019. It just does not make sense. And I just want to appeal to you, just to be reasonable. If you're going to make an offer, don't let it be something that is laughable. Let it be something that is realistic, something that makes sense in today's dollars. So that's the point I'm trying to make here this morning. I'm very, very grateful that you have moved forward. You're entertaining discussion very much. So you're doing something that the federal government is not doing presently. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But please make a reasonable offer that at least Mr. G can feel good about it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Russell Grady.
Good morning, Board.
Morning.
I trust all of you had good holidays, you and your family. And we're back here again. I can't believe that this month marks the third year that we've been down here. We've been coming for 2 straight years, and we missed 1 month. And you made me regret that we missed that month because somebody thought everything was over. I'm not going to speak very long this morning because I've had a meeting. There's a dialogue going on. But what has happened over those 2 years wasn't lost to me like it was just yesterday, because we're giving you information. Mr. Snow have all the facts. You know what happened. You know why it happened. And you know what damage that was done. You know that. What I'm asking you to do is to make a decent decision, something that is reasonable, and I'll be fine. That's all I got to say this morning. The ball is in your court. Appreciate you. Listen to us all these years. You have the facts. Act upon them fairly. And you know what they are. You know what fair. You know what you can do if you want to be fair. And you know what you can do if you do not want to be fair. We're asking you to be fair. It's been a pleasure coming before you. Hopefully this is the last time we may have to do this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Thank you, Joyce. Suzanne Mack will present the advisory committee report, please.
Good morning. It is a new room. Very interesting. I'm used to the old one, but it's very pretty. I just wanted to reflect really on what some of the other speakers said, that it is a new year, a new room. But I also, the agenda is pretty light today in terms of, very important to me is the purchase of the buses. If we don't have equipment, we can't run our system, we can't service the people of New Jersey. So I always like to see purchases on, and also the labor agreements. It shows respect for our employees, your employees, and I think it's always when you see this, it's a return to normalcy, I see on the agenda, that it's about the business of keeping the system running. And what I would like to say, though, is that 2 things were mentioned. One, the federal government. We do all that work to get the trains running again, and now the federal government can't review the files. So let's not forget that with a government shutdown, it's really impacting New Jersey Transit and federal employees all over. So let's hope that the federal government will step up and go back to business shortly. But the other thing people mentioned, and Mr. Cliff mentioned, I think it's really important to recognize what's happening in New York and what's happening in New Jersey. It seems as if both governors have taken on transit and transportation as a priority. I know Governor Cuomo did yesterday in his State of the State. And as we see congestion pricing coming up as a possibility to fund the MTA, we should remember that those people who go to New York come to New Jersey too, and we are still in dire need of funding. So perhaps Governor Murphy can talk to Governor Cuomo and see if we can get some of that money, because it really is still about funding and leadership. And certainly last year was the first year of the new administration here, and the focus on the audit and now the reform bill and the leadership of New Jersey Transit and the priorities all seem to be going in the great direction. And I just want to thank the senior staff for coming to Trenton to meet with both North and South Jersey committees 2 days after your last board meeting. We did focus a great deal on the South Jersey issues, which I'm glad Chair Castillo is here today. Because we had a good conversation on what's happening in South Jersey, and also we know that the Atlantic City situation line is very, very important, and I'm hoping that the commitments to that line will come shortly if we can get the federal government to reopen so that they can look at the file. So I want to thank you again. I welcome our new rail chief, but I want to thank you again for all the hard work from last year. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. I'll present the Capital Planning Policy and Privatization Committee report. The Capital Planning Policy and Privatization Committee discussed the board items for the bus stock program purchase of 85 articulated buses and New Jersey Transit bus operations proposed labor agreements. That concludes my report. Executive Director Corbett, will you present the Executive Director's monthly report, please?
I will, assuming I can master the technology here. Good morning, Chair and members of the board. First, picking up on Suzanne's note, I'd like to make some comments regarding the federal shutdown. We are closely monitoring the ongoing federal shutdown. At this time, the lack of a federal budget has no immediate impact on New Jersey Transit's current federally funded projects in the active construction phase. However, there are impacts to projects that require federal permits or other regulatory reviews, such as Northern Branch and Raritan River Drawbridge. Should the government shutdown be further prolonged, we will need to reassess and possibly suspend federally funded projects. On the personnel front, one of our goals in restoring this agency to national prominence is to attract and bring on top talent. I believe we've done so with the latest two additions to our executive management team. With the board's approval on January 4th, Ray Kenny took the reins as our head of rail operations. Ray has more than 45 years of railroad experience and rose through the ranks of the Long Island Railroad, starting as a summer ticket clerk in the early 70s before ultimately serving as head of the nation's busiest commuter railroad. Ray is an experienced professional with a demonstrated ability to lead teams of employees in passenger rail operations, training and labor relations, project and infrastructure management, and project coordination. Ray's extensive background in rail operations will be invaluable in our quest to rebuild New Jersey Transit and to make the tangible improvements our rail customers deserve. I'd like to also thank Ed Baxa, who served in an acting role to lead the railroad through some challenging times this past 9 months. I'm very pleased that Ed will be remaining with us in his previous role of Deputy General Manager of Equipment. We also welcome our new Chief of Office of System Safety, Brian Lapp. Brian, both of them are sort of hiding back there, but Brian began his role last week and came to us with an accomplished transportation safety professional and leader who brings expansive experience from intercity rail and environmental safety positions in both the private and public sectors. Most recently, he was the lead system safety specialist for the East Region at Amtrak, where he was responsible for the safety, compliance, and operations of the mechanical, transportation, and engineering departments. Additionally, he served as a leading force at Amtrak in conducting risk assessments and safety assurance audits. Brian is highly skilled in investigating health and safety incidents and the tracking of corrective action plans to eliminate future occurrences. He is a certified safety and security director with the World Safety Organization. I'd also like to thank Jim Maris for his leadership in assuming the acting chief role. Jim will now resume his position as Deputy Chief of System Safety. An effective and experienced management team is crucial to fulfilling our efforts to restore this agency. The additions of Ray and Brian in these critical leadership positions will serve New Jersey Transit well as we continue to push forward. Would now like to make some notes on PTC Milestones. On December 14th, after successfully meeting all our 2018 year-end PTC milestones, we submitted to the FRA our formal request for an alternative schedule approval. Approval for the alternative schedule would give us until December 31st, 2020 to have PTC fully operational on all rail lines in full revenue service. We were able to achieve what no one thought was possible at the start of last year, and it was thanks to the incredible work done by the men and women of New Jersey Transit in the field and at our MMC, along with our contractors. We had to accomplish 4 years' worth of work in just 10 months or face the real possibility of not running any rail service on January 1st. I can assure you, January 1st in the morning, I was a very happy man, even though I was down at the Emergency Operations Center. Meeting this milestone is something to be proud of, but there is still much work to be done before the PTC project is complete. Throughout the next 2 years, we will continue to install equipment on our remaining locomotives and cab cars, as well as expand our testing to include revenue service and ultimately move to full implementation by the end of 2020. Currently, rail service planners are evaluating a number of factors that affect the timing of service restoration around the state. These factors include equipment availability, continuing engineering, staffing challenges, and the potential effect of a continuing federal government shutdown. Our overarching goal is to ensure that the service we restore is reliable so that our customers have the predictability they want and deserve. New Jersey Transit does not want to bring a service back only to have irregularities and then have to adjust it again. I'd now like to bring up Assistant Executive Director for Capital Planning and Programs, Eric DeLeo, who will provide an update on PTC progress. Eric?
Good morning. Thank you, Kevin. And I'm just waiting for the presentation to make its way onto the screen. Okay. Almost. I'll start. As you know, I've been coming to the board for the past year and a half, and Positive Train Control is a safety enhancement system capable of automatically controlling train speeds and movements, reducing the risk of accidents due to human error. The PTC Enforcement and Implementation Act of 2015 required New Jersey Transit to meet 4 key milestones by December 31st, 2018, and to fully deploy our PTC system by December 31st, 2020. Those key milestones that needed to be completed by the end of 2018 were in the following areas: vehicle installation, wayside installation, training of employees on the installation and use of the PTC system, testing, and finally the submission of an alternative schedule, a document demonstrating how New Jersey Transit will deploy our PTC system by December 31st, 2020. And what I hope to do today, with or without a presentation, is provide an update on New Jersey Transit's progress, demonstrating how we met those key milestones in 2018, and provide an update on where we are in accomplishing our goals, our 2020 goals, toward full PTC system implementation. So wrapping back to 2018, where we were and where we ended up at the end of the year, with regard to vehicle installation, we were required to install by December 31st, 2018, PTC equipment on 282 locomotives and controlling cab cars. And when we met last month, when I was here, I reported our November numbers that we had completed 261 vehicles. As of December 31st, we've installed PTC equipment on 305 vehicles, which was well over the 282 required by year end. With regard to wayside, when I was here last month to provide the update, we talked about how we had installed all of the required poles and wayside interface units, and at that time we had just 2 antennas left to install. We completed that work by year's end. With regard to training, as we previously reported, we had targeted training. Oh, here we go. We had targeted training 823 employees by December 31st, and we exceeded that target, having trained 1,745 employees. The fourth key milestone in 2018 was testing. NJ Transit was required to test the interface of our onboard equipment with our wayside equipment. And with regard to testing, as I reported in previous months, we satisfied the 2018 year-end requirement and are well into the field testing phase, collecting data to ensure complete functionality and reliability of the system. And that testing that we conducted in 2018 was on a 16.5-mile stretch of the Morristown line from Summit to Denville, represented in pink on the screen. We continue to test in this area. The completion of these major milestones in vehicle, wayside, training, and testing culminated in our ability to be able to submit to the Federal Railroad Administration on December 14th an application for an alternative schedule and sequence, which memorializes how we met our 2018 goals and describes our overall program of testing, commissioning, and certification to ensure that NJ Transit will fully implement PTC. By statute, we anticipate receiving potentially an interim decision from the Federal Railroad Administration on our request within 45 days of that submittal, which would be January 28th, and a final decision within 90 days or March 14th. Now I'd like to brief you on our 2019 and 2020 planned major activities that we presented in our alternative schedule and sequence to the Federal Railroad Administration. Over the course of 2019 and 2020, NJ Transit plans to continue installation of PTC equipment on our remaining fleet, complete employee PTC training, continue the important field functionality testing that's occurring to demonstrate system reliability and repeatability. Once we get through that field functionality testing and demonstrate the reliability of the system, we can demonstrate the system in revenue service, which is the next step. We then plan to submit a PTC safety plan to the Federal Railroad Administration, complete interoperability and tenant railroad testing. And these steps will allow us by December 31st, 2020, to have a fully certified PTC system. Thank you for your time. For more information, we have a dedicated webpage, www.njtransit.com/PTC.
Great, thank you, Eric. I would also like to add one footnote about the FRA. While they, with the government shutdown on the safety side, the FRA is obviously the staff at their own on their own dime have been excellent as staying active and helping us with any safety issues. But the regular legal department, et cetera, they are not active. But the FRA is with us to make sure that in the interim we are certainly operating a very safe railroad. I'd like to now turn to recruitment, an update on recruitment. I'm pleased to report that our recruitment effort in 2018 proved to be extremely successful for both engineers and bus operators. We've hired more than 100 locomotive engineer trainees and received more than 4,000 applicants. We're currently running a record-setting 6 concurrent locomotive training classes, 4 of which will graduate by the end of this year. In October of last year, we initiated our streamlined training course for train conductors to leverage their existing knowledge of the railroad system and reduce the training time from 20 months to approximately 12 months. On the bus side, we saw more than 8,000 applicants express interest in bus operator positions, and we hired 386 new bus operators, also a record number of operators in a single year. We continue to offer a $6,000 incentive bonus for those who already possess a commercial driver's license, A or B class, with a passenger endorsement and air brakes. Now I'd like to turn on to today's agenda. You will see the purchase of 85 new articulated buses. With the board's approval, the purchase will allow for the retirement of the current articulated fleet, which has been in revenue service for more than 15 years. The articulated buses are 60 feet long and are used on some of our highest ridership routes that require additional capacity. By retiring our older buses, we're able to increase mechanical reliability and have buses spend more time on the road rather than in the shop. The new buses will also feature important customer amenities such as USB charging ports at the seats, new bike racks, and improved intercom system and LED lighting. When combined, more reliable performance and updated amenities of a modern fleet bring an improved all-around customer experience. And lastly, I would like to thank all of our employees who worked over the holidays and spent time away from their families. We had a successful holiday season, which included safely transporting our customers by bus and rail to and from the New Year's Eve ball drop in New York City. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for all their work throughout the year, and I look forward to continued building on our successes in 2019. Chair Scucchetti, that concludes my remarks.
Thanks, Kevin. Can we now present the action items?
I'd like to call up right here Eric DeLeo, speaking of articulated bus purchase, to present item 1901-02.
Thank you again. Good morning again, Chair and Board. Today, I am pleased to recommend the purchase of 85 articulated buses to advance New Jersey Transit's fleet strategy. Features on the new articulated buses will include low flooring, wheelchair ramps, security video systems, improved intercom systems, as well as new customer amenities such as USB ports and LED lighting. If authorized, the purchase of 85 60-foot articulated buses will provide fleet reliability and reduce operating and maintenance costs. Staff is seeking to enter into a contract with New Flyer of America for an amount not to exceed $65,810,166 plus 5% for contingencies. Authorization of this contract allows for the replacement of NJ Transit's aging articulated bus fleet, which is reaching the end of its expected service life. Articulated buses, by their nature, are longer vehicles comprised of two permanently attached segments at a pivot point, which allows for easier negotiation in urban traffic and sharp turns. The new fleet will be equipped with the latest technology to reduce vehicle exhaust emissions. We anticipate that if approved today, a notice to proceed will be issued to New Flyer of America in the first quarter of 2019, and anticipate that the first vehicle delivery would be approximately 8 months later, with the final delivery arriving in the third quarter of 2020. While we are proposing to purchase articulated buses today, I would also like to take this opportunity to brief the board on NJ Transit's next bus procurement, which introduces electric vehicles into our fleet. Our team has identified 8 potential routes in Camden County that are conducive for the use of electric vehicles. NJ Transit applied for and received federal grants, $500,000 in fiscal year 2017 and $1.5 million in fiscal year 2018 toward building part of an electric vehicle program. And this funding will be used toward the acquisition of 8 electric buses, electric vehicle charging equipment, training, and capital spare parts. As part of this effort, NJ Transit is evaluating obtaining a professional services firm to analyze maintenance costs, energy costs, operating performance, and to perform other technical analyses to examine future electric bus deployment. And NJ Transit staff, led by my colleague, Vice President and General Manager Michael Kilcoyne of Bus Operations, is coordinating with other agencies, including MTA and SEPTA, as well as attending programs such as our upcoming International Electric Bus Training Program for North America this spring. We are excited about what is to come with New Jersey Transit's electric vehicle program. But for today, staff seeks authorization to purchase 85 60-foot articulated buses, which addresses our important present need to upgrade our current aging bus fleet with more efficient vehicles. We ask your approval.
May I have a motion to approve board item 1901-02?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I do have a
comment, Madam Chair. I want to first congratulate you for the pilot on the electrical buses. I think that's terrific. I did want to also thank you for including the additional amenities on the articulated buses. Can you give me a sense in terms of the future provisions around testing the Wi-Fi capability for additional amenities for our customers that we discussed?
Sure. So this procurement is the first time that buses will have USB ports. Obviously, that's an important customer amenity for charging of personal devices. What Board Member Castillo is asking about is the specifications that we put out for these articulated buses also include the provision to potentially add in the future Wi-Fi technology for our customers. It's something we're obviously very interested in exploring, but there are a few steps that we need to take. First is we want to make sure that before we deploy any kind of technology like that, we can meet the minimum customer quality of service expectations. We don't want to launch something that our customers have difficulty using or that doesn't meet their needs. And second, more importantly, we want to make sure that the introduction of Wi-Fi technology doesn't interfere with other onboard, safety-sensitive, and other computer systems that currently also rely on those cellular and other connections. And so the manufacturer of these buses, New Flyer America, they won't provide Wi-Fi. They'll provide a future provision for it. And once prototypes are delivered and vehicles delivered, that's when staff would really explore in earnest testing.
Great, thank you.
And just to follow up on that, Eric, but cellular service is available when they're on the bus, right?
For customers, absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So if they're able to charge their phone using the USB port and they have the ability to use the personal hotspot, they should still be able to get internet access, correct?
Correct.
So they would be able to do it on their own.
Right.
It just wouldn't be something we're providing it through the bus.
That's correct.
Good. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Caulfield?
Yes.
Board Member Ajmani?
Yes.
Board Member Castillo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
I'd now like to call up Mike Kilcoyne, Vice President GM of Bus Operations, present item 1901-03. And Mike, before you present, I would like to make just one additional comment. That's something Eric touched on with Mike about electric buses, that part of New Jersey Transit stepping up and being leader in the industry has got to be more than rhetoric. And together with my colleague Phil Washington, the head of LA Metro, we're seeing the challenges of electric buses and where the future is, but how do we get realizing the realistic constraints? And Mike is between APTA and UITP and LA Metro will be participating in these forums and evaluations to really look at the serious challenges we face in doing that transition into the future. And it's good to see that New Jersey Transit now will be a leader on a national level in this. And Mike certainly is eminently qualified to do that.
Thank you.
That's on the hardware side. Mike will now present what's equally important is our relationship with labor and the contract on the soft side. Mike.
Good morning. We are recommending approval of item 1902-03, proposed labor agreements. New Jersey Transit Bus Operations, Inc., and Amalgamated Transit Union, New Jersey State Council, and local divisions number 540, 819, 820, 821, 822, 823, 824, 825, 880, and related labor agreements. Authorization is requested for the Board to approve and ratify the memoranda of agreement for hourly, field salary, and general office clerical employees. Authorize the President and/or Vice President and General Manager of Bus Operations to take all necessary steps to finalize and implement same, and authorize the President and/or Vice President and General Manager to negotiate, renew, and execute related labor agreements with the Utility Workers Union of America and the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 819, each representing approximately 25 employees, as discussed in executive session. We ask for your approval.
Thanks, Mike. May I have a motion to approve Board Item 1901-03?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Joyce, will you please take roll?
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Caulfield?
Yes.
Board Member Ajmani?
Yes.
Board Member Castillo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Since there is no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.